people like me. You need people like me so you can point your f***ing fingers and say, that's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy. That's the bad guy.
De la noche, Stephanie Piñeiro.
Welcome to the motherfucking relay. We're covering today's top boxing news.
Okay, it's time for our weekend recap. We're going to kick it off with the atomweight title fight that took place in Germany. What was Tina Rupprecht's bid to become a two-division champion, having moved down in weight from minimum down to atomweight to take on then unbeaten Fabiana Bytyqi, who had reigned as WBC champion for some time.
Fabiana of the Czech Republic.
Tina Rupprecht of Germany, in spite of being the challenger to the champion, it was the challenger that had home field advantage. Though no home cooking here, none necessary. Tina Rupprecht was able to effectively outwork Fabiana Bytyqi the way I said she would approximately 2 to 3 weeks ago when I first broke down this fight, and having reviewed the footage on Fabiana.
Fabiana's good, long and limber for the weight, but too slow. I felt that she would be too slow for Tina Rupprecht and too conventional.
She's too textbook, where Tina Rupprecht is a lot more nuanced and a lot more athletic, faster on her feet with faster hands and those level changes. What would seem like a drawback for Tiny Tina, as she's nicknamed, that she's so small.
She uses it to her advantage to make herself a hard target.
A moving target, moving out, moving in, changing levels while she does it, getting under and or around the straight punches and the sweeping hooks from a taller fighter like Fabiana.
Tina Rupprecht being so much lighter on her feet than Fabiana, so nimble. That's not to suggest that Fabiana's got lead feet or that she's flat-footed. That's just saying that Tina's a lot faster on her feet than Fabiana.
She's a lot faster, a lot bouncier, bouncing in and out of range, throwing combinations when she does it, much shorter punches and more defensible punches than what you see from Fabiana. Hard to counter.
Because the punches are so short, and it would seem like Tina Rupprecht is right in front of you, though, because she's bobbing, weaving, slipping shots, changing levels while she's there.
Can make herself a very hard target, a tricky target, a victory that is aging well for current reigning unified minimum weight champion Senicia Estrada. That was Tina Rupprecht's last fight before this one.
Was that in March of last year?
Yes, it was. It was the only fight that Tina Rupprecht had last year. She had the unification match with Senicia, who ended up taking her belt. Tina sat out the rest of the year and decided she's going to move down in weight.
Try to win another one.
Where Senicia Estrada took Tina's belt last year, Tina took Fabiana's belt this one, effectively becoming a two-division champion. Outworking Fabiana in the pocket, what seems to have been the running theme for most of this weekend's fights, infighting and combinations, whether you're talking about Rupprecht versus Bytyqi, or Mbilli versus Murdock, or Beterbiev versus Smith.
Seems to have been an emphasis this weekend on infighting and combination punching.
Tiny Tina, in many ways, doesn't have a choice. She has to box mid-range to inside because she's so small, but she uses it to her advantage, barreling forward, moving side to side behind a tight guard, crowding the other fighter and letting go of combinations once she's there, as that proximity favors the shorter fighter with the shorter arms.
What would seem like a disadvantage to the untrained eye.
Tina's a lot smaller than the other girls at or around these weights, but she makes it work. Tight hooks, counter shots, level changes. It's going to take more than a height advantage and a reach advantage to keep Tina out of the pocket. You have to try and manage the distance, and it seems like a lot of fighters can't save Senicia Estrada, who's just as, if not more, athletic and fast as Tina Rupprecht. This was a quality win for Tina, and it would seem that All the titles in the atomweight division changed hands this past weekend. The WBC title among them that Tina Rupprecht pried away from Fabiana Bytyqi. The prediction stuck. Fuck! Tiny Tina is now this division's newly crowned WBC champion, breathing new life into her career, the possibility of unification matches and maybe becoming undisputed at atomweight. It's a conversation now.
She's a tough woman to beat. Congratulations to her.
You got a real slobber knocker in the men's super middleweight division. Co-main event to the main event of the top-ranked card, what was Christian Mbilli's continued effort to try and corner the big fights. Opposite the ring, Australia's own Rohan Murdock, who was a tough guy, a really tough guy. He didn't want to go out.
Didn't want to give up, but his corner had to make that decision for him. He had to save him from himself. Took a lot of hard shots.
From Christian Mbilli, the standout amateur turned unbeaten pro, the inside fighter, the pressure fighter. With Christian, what you see is what you get, and what you see is what you expect from a pressure guy. Comes forward behind that tight peekaboo guard, looking to crowd the pocket, and once he gets there, all hell breaks loose. Shots upstairs, shots to the body. When he's not whacking you around the side of the head with that big right hand, he's drilling your body with those hooks, those left hooks to the midsection, a good number of which he landed on Rohan Murdock, who showed good durability, a good chin. It took Zach Parker approximately 11 rounds to get Rohan Murdock out of there 2 years ago. It only took Christian 6 to make him retire in his corner.
That is for Rohan's corner to make that decision for him. He pulled him out.
Christian Mbilli, who so clearly is offensively gifted, but defensively he can leave you wanting a bit. There were spurts, there were moments where Rohan Murdock caught him in between the punches, caught his attention here and there, bloodied his nose.
At least 1 or 2 times I saw him stagger Mbilli.
Wouldn't say that he hurt Mbilli so much as 1 or 2 times he got his attention, got through with something good, something hard, but not enough to keep Mbilli out, not enough to keep Mbilli off. Stands out about Mbilli is his engine. This guy's got great cardio, and he can really go from the opening round to the final round if his opponent manages to make it there. What stands out about Mbilli is his cardio, his engine, his shot selection. What punches he throws, when and where he throws them. Uppercuts up the middle, shots around the side of the guard to the head, and body shots. That head body variety.
Because he's throwing so much, so fast, guy doesn't know what to protect after a while. Do you protect your head? Do you protect your body?
If you protect your head, he's going to drill your midsection. If you protect your midsection, he's going to whack you around the side of the head. If you try to do both, he's going to split the guard with uppercuts up the middle.
Go back to whacking you upside the head with that right hand. He landed that right hand on Rohan Murdock several times. Several right hands around the side of the head, several left hooks to the body.
Uppercuts up the middle. Rohan Murdock looked like a man trying to hold back a storm, caught in a hurricane with nothing but an umbrella. Was a tough man contest is what it was, and you need to be a tough man, a particularly strong one, to hold back Christian Mbilli. You have to wonder, how does his strength and how does his power stack up with, say, David Morrell's or David Benavidez's? To look at him, Mbilli is an accumulation puncher, a combination puncher. It's not just single punching power.
Nah, it's not really one-hitter-quitter power. It's volume.
In terms of single punching power, I think David Morrell packs a bigger punch than Mbilli, but man alive, look at Mbilli's work rate.
Look at him go.
Though an area of concern that I have for Christian Mbilli is that all his shots are fastballs. He throws all his punches with the same intensity, with the same bad intentions. Thus, if one day he's caught in between by a more sizable puncher than a Rohan Murdock, he could go out for the same reason Richard Comey went out in the Teofimo Lopez fight.
Your forward momentum, in tandem with a punch that's coming your way, it's going to be more damaging as a result of that forward momentum.
In fact, he won't see it. What is an occupational hazard for any offensively minded fighter, any pressure fighter, volume puncher like Christian Mbilli, who comes in chin tucked, slight crouch behind a peekaboo guard, looking to whack you upside the head with big hooks.
Offensively, Christian is amazing, but defensively, he needs to tighten up. Trained by veteran trainer Mark Ramsey, who also happens to train Artur Beterbiev. Mark wasn't in Christian's corner because he had to focus on Artur.
Based on what we saw, Christian didn't really need him there. Demolition job he did on Rohan Murdock. Who else can he beat? Who else can Christian Mbilli plow through if he were given the opportunity. I would pick him confidently to beat the likes of Edgar Berlanga, Demetrius Andre, Caleb Plant.
Especially the last two guys, especially Demetrius and especially Caleb.
Because they're pure boxers, economic pure boxers that really don't throw that many punches in a round, and they're not big punchers, so I don't think they'll be able to get Mbilli's respect and keep him out, keep him off. Those two guys that get outworked, I think Mbilli would stop the both of them. The real test for Mbilli would have to be David Benavidez and David Morrell.
But it's like they're living in parallel universes.
They may as well be. Christian Mbilli is over there on the top-ranked side of things. On the matchroom side of things, you see Edgar Berlanga and Diego Pacheco, those unbeaten up-and-comers. Golden Boy Promotions has Uzbekistan's Bektemir Melikuziev, very strong puncher and an inside fighter, just like Christian Mbilli. And of course, at the PBC, you've got David Benavidez, you've got David Morrell.
Jermall Charlo's supposed to be campaigning as a super middleweight moving forward.
No surprises yesterday. I figured that Christian would plow through Rohan Murdock, but you do have to wonder how he stacks up with the other super middleweights in this division. And I'd pick Christian Mbilli to beat the likes of a John Ryder, a Demetrius Andre, to Caleb Plant, and Edgar Berlanga.
I think he'd beat Jermall too, he'd stop him.
But it's the guys like David Morrell and David Benavidez, Bektemir Melikuziev to a lesser extent, the punchers, the bigger punchers that you have to wonder about. Christian Mbilli is one among them, but how would he stack up against those guys? Because boxing is as political as it is, we may never know. The super middleweight division is a deep division, but it's also very political up there. Congratulations to Christian for racking up another W. We then come to the main event of that same card, the light heavyweight title fight between Artur Beterbiev, the champion, and Callum Smith, the challenger and former champion. No surprises. I told you, Artur's going to be too much for this guy. In the opening round, you saw Artur come out, get off to a fast start, at least at first, but then Callum Smith starts opening up, trying for combinations and trying to fight him off, though having very limited success, as most of Callum's punches were caught on the arms and gloves of Artur, who was managing the distance while applying pressure.
Very cerebral at the start. Underrated defense for a pressure guy.
It's a gross oversimplification to relegate Artur Beterbiev to just being a power puncher, a powerful guy. Yeah, he's that, but he's that and more. He's a bit more than your average pressure fighter, your average inside fighter. In the first two rounds,
Callum is opening up, throwing combinations, and Artur is catching them on the arms and gloves, taking his time, getting out with jabs that are regularly finding a home.
Landon, Artur's getting in with punches here and there, but he doesn't really get going until round 3, throwing salvos of punches, waves upon waves of punches that are finding a home as Callum tries valiantly to weather the storm.
In rounds 3 and 4,
so much of what Artur Beterbiev does gets lost on the casual observer. What happens within a round leading up to a big highlight reel knockout, it really is the little things with Artur, because he's not your average pressure guy. Staying mid-range with Callum Smith to smother him a bit, take away some of his power, because he's such a tall, long guy. You don't want to be at the tail end of his punches, and you don't want to give him that much room to throw and drive those shots. Artur staying mid-range with him and catching those combinations on the arms and either countering him in between the punches or at the tail end of the combination to simmer him down.
to break his rhythm.
Wouldn't let Callum Smith get into a groove even when Callum Smith was letting his hands go and coming on, because he'd either catch him in between or catch him at the tail end of the combination. That would calm him down and do damage simultaneously by staying mid-range with Callum.
That's the pressure.
From the perennial pressure fighter, Artur Beterbiev, who is not as brazen with his pressure as some other pressure fighters like an Isaac Cruz or a William Zepeda, a Roman Villa. He's not just throwing punches for the sake of throwing punches, but he does have the other guy under a lot of pressure, and that was just with staying with him, staying on him, staying mid-range,
Catching him in between.
landing an awful lot of his power shots, his power punches. Artur Beterbiev is not a guy that needs to load up his punches or wind them up to add power to them. He shoots from the hip.
He's strong and he's got power in both hands, so he doesn't have to load up on his shots, and he doesn't lose that half a second doing that.
And the punches regularly find a home. He's accurate with his power shots. Not what someone would describe as a speedster, a fighter with very fast hands, yet he's managing to beat his opponent to the punch. A guy with a height advantage, reach advantage, all physical attributes that you would think gave Callum the tools to keep Artur out. And at the end of his straight punches, at the end of his jab. But it goes back to what I told you. Artur's got underrated defense.
Artur's got underrated defense. He comes forward in that high guard, catching those shots on the arms and gloves, and before you know it, he's mid-range.
Once he's there, he can catch you in between your punches or catch you at the tail end of your combination. There were moments when Callum Smith was attempting to trade with him, but being the taller and much longer fighter, he needs more room to get his punches off than Artur does. At that proximity, the shorter fighter with the shorter arms
has the edge.
He was winning the battle of the jabs in spite of being noticeably shorter with shorter arms than Callum Smith. You can chalk that up to timing, elite level timing.
When you throw a punch is just as important as what punch you're throwing.
Timing is how he did it. Timing is how Artur won the battle of the jabs against the taller, longer guy than he is.
At 38 years old.
It's timing because Artur is not a speedster. You can't chalk it up to speed. It's timing.
Say after the third round, when Artur started gaining steam and gaining momentum, when he really got going, he couldn't miss Callum Smith with the jab. Whenever he threw it, it landed.
Chalk it up to timing. And I do think he respected Callum's power because he wasn't cavalier. Showed great defense, catching most of what Callum threw on the arms and gloves. He wasn't just going crazy in there, going all willy-nilly, throwing punches just to be throwing punches on the premise that he's stronger than Callum. We know he's stronger than Callum, but Callum is strong too, so you don't want to let him land punches on you. And he didn't.
Defensively, he was really good. Pressure fighter's defense ain't gonna look like a pure boxer's defense. It's different.
Pure boxer's gonna stay out of range of the punches, whereas the pressure fighter, because they're applying pressure, it's about catching those shots on the arms, on the gloves, because you're within range, and you want to be within range to land your own punches, so it is gonna look different. And Artur showed great defense for a pressure fighter in the 7th round.
Callum was knocked down 2 times. For the first time in either his amateur career or his pro career, Callum Smith had never hit the deck. He's a tough guy. He had never been knocked down until yesterday in Quebec.
At which point, veteran trainer and former fighter, former champion, Callum Smith's corner, Buddy McGirt, he decided he'd seen enough. His guy's getting hit way too much. He's hit the deck 2 times, and there's nothing left to see. You know what's going to happen if you leave him in there. He waved it off. He pulled him out. Just like that, Artur Beterbiev continues his reign as this division's undefeated,
unified, lineal, and Ring Magazine champion. We know who's up next. There's only one more guy to scalp in this division. The only other champion in this division, Dmitry Bivol.
Immediately after the fight, His Excellency Turki Al-Sheikh, he was taking stock of the action. He was watching. He congratulated Artur, and we already know he wants to make the fight. He wants to make the fight between them for after Ramadan, which Artur Beterbiev, a practicing Muslim, will be observing. I can't wait. It's a 50-50 fight. For all the right reasons. Some fights that are 50-50 fights are because both guys are flawed. Both guys suck. Whereas this fight, it's a 50-50 fight because both guys are so good.
I can't wait to see it. Congratulations to Artur Beterbiev.